The Crimson Veil. This is a fictional historical novel and not based on real events. In the resplendent days of 16th century Spain, where the sun spilled gold upon ancient stones and the winds carried whispers of change through narrow, cobblestone alleys, destiny wove its intricate tapestry among men and women of courage, love, and ambition. In the bustling port city of Santa Lucia, a place both real in spirit and fictional in detail, the lives of Edward Sinclair, Isabella Montrose, Alexander Reed, and Catherine Fairweather intertwined in ways that promised both splendor and sorrow, triumph and treachery. The scent of orange blossoms and salt from the nearby sea mingled with the murmurs of secret meetings in shadowed courtyards, setting the stage for a drama fueled by political intrigue and the tender pulse of romance. Edward Sinclair, a young nobleman of gentle bearing and resolute heart, was the very image of an idealistic courtier. Raised in a modest estate on the outskirts of Santa Lucia, his eyes displayed not just hope but a burning desire for justice in a time rife with corruption. Though his lineage carried whispers of forgotten valor, Edward's own tender soul was nurtured on the ideals of honor, compassion, and the belief that love, like the steady beat of a distant drum, could unite warring factions of society. With his dark, thoughtful eyes and calm demeanor, he ventured into the labyrinthine corridors of power, determined to mend the fractures of a divided nation. Isabella Montrose, radiant and resolute, was known throughout the region not only for her captivating beauty but for her intellect and empathy. Daughter of an influential merchant family whose fortunes were made through arduous ventures across seas, Isabella's path was as winding as the river that cut through the city. She possessed a rare blend of sensitivity and skepticism, often challenging the rigid customs of her era. It was at a sumptuous banquet, under glittering chandeliers in the grand hall of the Palacio de la Rosa, that her path crossed with Edward's. Their eyes met over plates of spiced delicacies and the lilting strains of a lute, and in that fleeting moment the promise of change and revolution stirred the very air. From the start, the city of Santa Lucia rendered itself both a stage and a labyrinth for the players of power. Alexander Reed, a charismatic and daring advisor to the royal court, navigated the treacherous waters of political intrigue with the cunning of a seasoned strategist. His allegiance, however, was not solely bound to the crown. Beneath his polished exterior lay secrets that could shatter alliances. Alexander's involvement in clandestine negotiations and whispered conspiracies threatened to unsettle the foundational order of the realm. His path, interwoven with Edward's, would test loyalties and challenge his own internal compass, as even the most pragmatic hearts sometimes found themselves adrift in the tides of passion and apprehension. Catherine Fairweather, the epitome of grace and determination, balanced her role as a lady of society with an unyielding loyalty to those less fortunate. Raised in the bustling quarters of Santa Lucia where hardship and hope danced side by side, Catherine had learned to wield her resourcefulness like a finely honed rapier. Her advocacy for the oppressed and her secret engagements to counsel marginalized citizens made her both revered and reviled by the aristocracy. When a series of mysterious events began to cast dark shadows upon the seemingly idyllic city, Catherine's resolute spirit was among the first to rise in defiance. Through shadowed streets and secret rendezvous, she became a guardian of justice, a beacon luminescent enough to rival the brilliance of the midday sun. As the heat of summer gave way to the crisp onset of autumn, political tension simmered under the grandeur of the Spanish court in Santa Lucia. Rumors spread like wildfire, whispers of a clandestine alliance between discontented nobles and foreign emissaries, murmurs that shook the very foundations of the king's trust. In smoky taverns and hushed confidences behind ornate screens, men and women exchanged coded messages. Even as tradition and ritual sought to shroud the revelations, the hearts of those who dared to dream beat in a cadence of defiance and hope. It was during one such evening, beneath a cloudy sky spattered with silver stars, that Edward Sinclair found himself embroiled in a meeting of fate. A discreet invitation had summoned him to a nondescript courtyard near the ancient cathedral of Saint Marisol, where shadows danced on the old stone walls and the promise of secret confidences beckoned him ever onward. Under the muted glow of lantern light, Edward encountered a figure cloaked in mystery, a messenger bearing tidings that risked both his reputation and the fragile peace of the realm. "Edward," the messenger whispered, "there is a conspiracy that reaches the highest towers of power. The Crown's allies have grown corrupt, and the cause of the common people is in jeopardy. You must trust in the strength of your convictions, for soon the scales will tip, and a new era of justice will be born. The gravity in those words stirred something deep within Edward, a blend of dread and determination that would propel him on a journey fraught with peril and wonder. Though his face remained resolute, internally his spirit trembled with both hope and sorrow, for the path ahead promised challenges as insurmountable as the rugged cliffs that guarded the coastline. It was against this turbulent backdrop of shifting allegiances and emerging intrigue that Isabella Montrose embarked on her own delicate mission. By day, her engagements at court adorned her life with a veneer of cultivated politeness, but by night she gathered in secret with like-minded souls who shared her concerns about the future. In hushed rooms lit by a single candle, plans were set in motion to challenge the stagnant, oppressive forces that loomed over Santa Lucia. "We must be the voice of reason, the torch in the darkness," she confided to a trusted confidant, her voice trembling with both fear and determination. "In every whispered secret and every courageous act lies the power to unbind those who would hold us captive. I believe in a future where every individual can shine as bright as the morning star." In the days that followed, Edward and Isabella found themselves drawn not only to the cause of justice but also to each other. Their early conversations, carried out in lush gardens behind crumbling fortifications and amidst the soft refrain of evening prayers, blossomed into a mutual admiration that transcended social boundaries. In one impassioned dialogue set against the backdrop of a garden awash in moonlight, Edward's voice quavered with fervor, "Isabella, I have seen a darkness that threatens to consume our world. Yet, in your eyes, there is a light that has the power to ignite hope in even the coldest of hearts. Let us stand together, not as servants of an age-old order but as pioneers of a new dawn." Isabella's reply, gentle yet determined, resonated like a promise on the warm night air. "Edward, you speak of dreams that belong to us all. In your words, I find both the courage to defy convention and the solace of knowing that love is the true catalyst of change. Our union of ideals, hearts, and souls may indeed be the answer to these troubled times." As their hearts intertwined, the sprawling city of Santa Lucia became a stage where personal passions and political conspiracies played out simultaneously. The high corridors of the royal palace buzzed with secret dispatches and coded signals, while in hidden alcoves, everyday citizens chanced upon the extraordinary whispers of a revolution in the making. Alexander Reed, ever the embodiment of cunning diplomacy, meandered through these murky waters with an artistry that blurred the line between friend and foe. In one discreet conversation with a disillusioned courtier at an austere banquet, Alexander confided, "The very foundations of our state are shifting. You see, loyalty in these times is a coin with two faces, one radiant, one dark. Every decision we make, every alliance we forge, carries the burden of our collective future. We must act wisely, or risk the collapse of all that we hold dear." Yet beneath that carefully measured tone, even Alexander could not deny the stirring of conscience as he recalled the ethical debates that once preoccupied him in quieter moments of solitude. The intrigue thickened as shadowy figures emerged, bringing with them the scent of betrayal. Whispers spoke of a clandestine council assembled by ambition-driven nobles who envied the rising tide of reform. Among these conspirators was a man known as Richard Hale, whose ambitions reached as high as the spires of Santa Lucia's ancient cathedral. Richard, cunning and discontented, harbored a fierce resentment toward those he deemed too progressive. His meetings were held in secret rooms hidden beneath the rubble of abandoned monasteries, where candlelight flickered over maps and hand-drawn plans for the usurpation of royal power. "Our time is coming," Richard would murmur to his co-conspirators, his eyes smoldering with ambition. "Let us cast off the yoke of outdated loyalties and seize the reins of destiny. In our silence lie the seeds of revolution, and soon, we will uproot the very essence of tyranny." The threads of destiny, however, are rarely woven without the influence of fate's benevolent hand. Amid these turbulent developments, Catherine Fairweather emerged as an unexpected heroine, her gentle smile belying a steely resolve. One late afternoon, while tending to a small assembly of wounded laborers in a modest dwelling near the outskirts of the city, Catherine encountered an injured messenger bearing static news from the royal guard. The man, trembling not just from blood loss but from the gravity of his secret missive, handed her a sealed scroll. "Lady Catherine," he rasped, "this message contains the key to unmasking the conspirators who seek to upend our way of life. The future of Santa Lucia and indeed, Spain itself hangs in the balance." In its cramped quarters illuminated only by the modest glow of an oil lamp, Catherine unfurled the scroll. The words it bore were as stark as they were stirring, detailing plots so interlaced with deceit that even the staunchest advocates of the realm would falter. With quiet determination, she resolved that no injustice, no matter how deeply rooted in the veins of power, should go unchallenged. The narrative of Santa Lucia spread, carried by the winds of change and hope. Public squares became arenas for impassioned speeches, and discreet gatherings in dimly lit taverns allowed the flower of defiance to bloom. Edward and Isabella's clandestine meetings grew in frequency and intensity. In one memorable encounter in a secluded courtyard draped with trailing ivy and the soft hum of a distant fountain, Edward declared, "This city, our home, is like a tapestry woven with the threads of countless souls. Each thread, whether vibrant or faded, contributes to its beauty and strength. I cannot, in good conscience, stand aside while forces that would unravel our shared heritage conspire in the shadows." Isabella, with a mixture of passion and tenderness, replied, "Then we must be the weavers of our destiny, Edward. With every act of kindness and every challenge to the oppressive Moro, we shall mend what has been torn and craft a future radiant with promise." Their voices, resonating with both personal conviction and a broader vision, served as a clarion call for others to rise and claim their part in history. As autumn deepened, the political machinations in Santa Lucia reached a fevered pitch. In the dim light of early dawn, Alexander Reed found himself facing a pivotal decision. In a discreet parlor lined with portraits of long-fallen heroes, he met with an old friend, Benjamin Carter, a scholar whose piercing intellect was matched only by his steadfast integrity. "Alexander," Benjamin implored in a low, urgent tone, "our choices now will echo through eternity. The alliances you forge, are they for the greater good, or merely echoes of personal ambition? Remember that the fate of our sovereign land rests on the honesty of our intentions." The conversation lingered like a solemn prayer, each word weighted by the gravity of history. For Alexander, torn between the alluring promises of power and the quiet call of moral duty, this was a moment of reckoning. With the cadence of a man who understood that true leadership was forged not in the fires of deceit but in the crucible of honesty, he resolved to steer his actions toward a future where justice and truth were not mere whispered dreams, but living, breathing realities. The city itself seemed to hold its breath as the conspiracies threatened to spill into the open. Amid endless nights of scheming and planning, the streets of Santa Lucia took on an eerie stillness, a silence punctuated only by the murmur of secret couriers and the distant tolling of church bells. In this charged atmosphere, fateful meetings took place in abandoned chapels and forgotten warehouses. Edward's resolve hardened with every secret rendezvous as he pored over every detail with the meticulous care of a man who knew that the smallest oversight could lead to disaster. "We must trust in our hearts," he would murmur in solitary contemplation, gazing at the portrait of a noble ancestor whose legacy whispered of honor and sacrifice. "For it is not the sword alone that defends our future, it is the compassion and unwavering spirit of those who dare to challenge the darkness." The climax of the intrigue came one stormy night when the conspirators prepared to execute a daring coup. Under the cover of raging rain and the wrath of a turbulent sky, Richard Hale and his cohorts convened in a deserted mansion on the outskirts of the metropolis. The plan was ingenious in its audacity: overthrow the ceremonial leaders while the royal guards were otherwise distracted by staged emergencies across the city. But word of these treacherous plans had reached the ears of Catherine Fairweather, who, in her role as covert sentinel of justice, had managed to intercept and decipher coded messages that portended the coup. With heart pounding and resolve steel-forged by years of hardship, Catherine rallied loyal citizens and sympathetic members of the city guard. In a dramatic confrontation reminiscent of epic duels from a bygone age, the conspirators found themselves ensnared in a trap laid by the combined efforts of those who cherished freedom and justice. As the first rays of dawn touched the rain-washed streets, Richard Hale was apprehended, his schemes laid bare before an astonished assembly of nobles and commoners alike. The aftermath of that fateful night imbued the city with a renewed sense of hope and unity. In the aftermath of betrayal and near ruin, Edward Sinclair assumed a more prominent role in the reformation of the realm. Working alongside trusted comrades Isabella, whose unyielding spirit shone as bright as ever, Alexander, who had turned his cunning mind to the service of good, and Catherine, ever the guardian of truth, they began to refurbish the fractured foundations of the court and the Commonwealth. In the soft light of rehabilitation, long-forgotten values were rekindled, and the people of Santa Lucia rediscovered that unity and empathy could triumph over division and despair. In one quiet moment, as the city celebrated a modest victory with soft music and shared bread in the town square, Edward whispered to Isabella, "Our journey has been arduous, but look how the seeds we planted have blossomed into hope. May our love and dedication continue to guide us as we forge a future that honors the best of our heritage." Isabella, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears of gratitude, replied, "Indeed, Edward. The hearts of men are like the eternal flame, they may flicker in adversity, but with care and warmth, they shall endure and illuminate even the darkest nights." Days turned into months and seasons shifted, and soon news of a reformed Santa Lucia began to spread far beyond its borders. The city's transformation, guided by the collective efforts of a few brave souls, became an inspiring beacon for other regions tormented by the weight of oppressive traditions. In distant courts across Spain, murmurs of reform stirred as enlightened luminaries studied Santa Lucia's example. Even Alexander Reed, once shadowed by his own inner conflicts, came to be seen as a venerable champion of change. In a stirring conversation with a delegation from a neighboring province, he stated, "What we have built here is proof that even in the midst of chaos the human spirit can triumph over tyranny. Our path was neither easy nor free of strife, but with unity and unwavering faith, even the most formidable obstacles can become stepping stones toward a brighter, kinder tomorrow." Within the walls of the city, the romance that had sparked amidst the turmoil blossomed into a deep, enduring commitment. Edward and Isabella became symbols of hope and embodiment of the idea that love, when rooted in shared ideals and mutual compassion, can withstand even the harshest winds of destiny. Their private moments were a delicate tapestry of whispered dreams in quiet corridors, soft laughter shared on sunlit terraces, and the unspoken promise that every act of kindness in daily life was a rebellion against injustice. Amid the gentle cadence of a distant guitar and the rustle of olive branches, they often spoke of a future where every man, woman, and child could embrace their inherent dignity and potential without fear of subjugation. Yet, even as the city bathed in the light of renewal, remnants of the old order lurked in the hidden crevices of power. A coterie of disillusioned nobles, unwilling to relinquish their grasp on influence and wealth, plotted in the shadows. Their clandestine efforts, though dwindling in strength, posed a lingering reminder of the fragility of progress. In one such secretive midnight meeting held in the barracks of a crumbling fortress on the outskirts of Santa Lucia, a group of conspirators debated in hushed tones. "We have not yet lost our claim," intoned Lord Sebastian, a man whose eyes burned with a mixture of envy and conviction. "There remains much that can be reclaimed from the ashes of this so-called reformation. Our fortunes, our honor, everything is tied to the old ways. We must act swiftly before the tide washes away our legacy." Their voices, though subdued, carried the bitter residue of past glories. But the resilience and unity that had taken root in the hearts of Santa Lucia's citizens proved too mighty a force to be extinguished by such forlorn lamentations. As months melted into years, the initial fervor of revolution evolved into a stable harmony that resonated through every facet of life in Santa Lucia. The grand avenues, once marked by the specter of political betrayal and fear, were now alive with the laughter of children and the vibrant chatter of market stalls. Courtyards that had echoed with the bitter words of dissent now resounded with the gentle cadence of shared festivals, where the old songs were sung anew with fresh hope and vigor. Edward, ever a champion of both reform and romance, continued his tireless work advocating for fairness. In a heartfelt dialogue at a gathering of neighborhood elders on a mild spring evening, He remarked, "In unity, there is strength. In love, there is perseverance. And so, we must celebrate every heartbeat of our collective destiny, no matter how seemingly insignificant, as a testament to the undying spirit of humanity." Amid these joyful times, Isabella devoted herself to matters of education and art, believing that the nurturing of the creative spirit was as essential to the welfare of a nation as was the legality of its governance. In a modest yet vibrant schoolhouse near the ancient aqueducts of Santa Lucia, she gathered children from all walks of life to teach them stories of old valor, the beauty of literature, and the vital lessons of compassion. "Every story we read," she told the eager young listeners one radiant afternoon, "is a window into a past that informs our future. Let us be mindful that the journey of knowledge is one paved with kindness, and that every act of learning brings us closer together." Her words, though simple, resonated with the timeless truth that education could be a bridge between the divided souls of a society. Even as personal joys unfolded within the flow of daily life, the undercurrents of political intrigue continued to surge just beneath the surface. Alexander Reed, now a venerable advisor whose wisdom was sought in even the highest echelons of power, found himself in yet another discreet parley. In an unadorned study lined with ancient tomes and illuminated by the fractured light of stained glass windows, he confided in a trusted aide, Daniel Morris, about his ongoing concerns. "There remains within the strata of our society a resistance to change, a relic of old resentments that could yet cause turmoil if left unchecked. We must remain vigilant, for in the nurturing of justice it is our duty to ensure that no shadow of treachery ever dims the light of progress." Daniel, a man who had grown to mirror the virtues of his mentor, responded with a quiet but firm conviction, "Let us trust that the seeds of hope we have sown will inevitably vanish, the remnants of the past, and that every truth will find its rightful reflection in the face of justice." In the courtyards of history, where echoes of duty and romance entwined, the journey of our four main souls, Edward, Isabella, Alexander, and Catherine, became a legend woven with the fibers of both struggle and serenity. Their lives, marked by the dazzling interplay of honor and desire, served to remind all that even in times of great upheaval, the human spirit could forge a destiny radiant with the promise of a brighter morrow. On sun-dappled afternoons, as the gentle hum of the marketplace mingled with the distant strains of sacred hymns, Edward and Isabella would stroll side by side. Their conversation drifted through memories of bitter winters past and dreams of the verdant springs yet to come. "It is in the quiet moments," Edward opined softly as they paused before an ancient fountain whose waters sparkled like fragments of sunlight, "that one finds the true measure of life. Every sacrifice, every act of kindness, lingers like the ripples on these waterbeds. And though our struggles were many, they have left us with a strength that emanates from the gentlest acts of courage." Isabella squeezed his hand in return and smiled, "Indeed, my dearest Edward. In every challenge we have faced, we have discovered a power far more potent than the fury of any storm, the power of love and resilience. Let this be our legacy, a future where compassion leads and where the human heart dares to dream beyond the constraints of old prejudices." Her words, like tender notes in an everlasting symphony, wove through the fabric of Santa Lucia's renewed society, instilling hope in every soul that encountered them. The grand tapestry of the city, now a mosaic of new ideas and ancient traditions, also bore witness to moments of reconciliation and forgiveness. Former adversaries embraced in public squares, their differences dissolved by the overwhelming desire to build a unified future. In these powerful reunions, even Alexander Reed, once torn by inner conflicts, emerged as a symbol of transformation. "In our unity lies the triumph of morality," he declared during a momentous public gathering amid a riot of flowers and fluttering banners. "Let us remember that even the most meticulously constructed walls of enmity can crumble before the relentless force of forgiveness and understanding." His words resonated across the assembly, igniting hearts with an assurance that the scars of the past could indeed give way to the healing balm of shared humanity. The passage of time softened even the stinging memories of betrayal, and slowly, Santa Lucia embraced an era where justice, learning, and love harmonized as its guiding principles. Catherine Fairweather, whose earlier struggles in the face of conspiracy had once seemed insurmountable, now emerged as an esteemed figure, revered for her unwavering commitment to the underprivileged. In her quiet, dignified manner, she often reminded those around her, it is not the magnitude of our challenges that defines us, but the kindness we extend to one another in overcoming them. Her words echoed in the hearts of countless citizens, affirming that every soul, regardless of birth or circumstance, held the inherent potential to kindle the light of hope in a turbulent world. In the waning light of an autumn afternoon, as the cool breeze carried the soft rustle of leaves across the ancient plazas, fate gathered these lives for one final moment of reckoning and renewal. The royal court, once marred by intrigue, now opened its doors wide to embrace voices of reform and compassion. In this historic assembly, dignitaries and commoners alike stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces uplifted by the promise of an era defined by unity rather than division. Edward Sinclair, his countenance both wise and gentle, addressed the assembly with a voice that bridged the chasm between the old and the new. Today, we stand on the precipice of a future reimagined, a future where every act of honesty, every tender smile, every courageous challenge to the status quo writes a new stanza in the epic of our existence. Let us together carry forward the legacy of hope and kindness, and in doing so, let us forever defy the darkness that once sought to engulf us. In that moment, as the assembly broke into a harmonious chorus of approval and anticipation, the city of Santa Lucia appeared to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The winds of change had swept away the remnants of despair, leaving in their wake a landscape replete with promise and the vibrant potential of a united people. Together, Edward, Isabella, Alexander, and Catherine had not only navigated the treacherous waters of political machination but had also discovered that the truest power lay not in the swords of warriors or the edicts of tyrants, but within the compassionate hearts of those who dared to dream of a better world. The crimson veil that once shrouded the secrets of the realm had been lifted by the shared dedication of kind souls and enlightened minds. The city, with its storied past and renewed aspirations, stood as a testament to the transformative power of unity and the enduring legacy of love and justice. In the gentle glow of twilight, as families gathered in humble abodes and elders recounted the trials of yore with both wistfulness and wisdom, the future sparkled with the promise of renewal, a future where every whispered wish for peace could become a vibrant reality. Thus, in the annals of a time remembered with tenderness and reverence, the chronicles of Santa Lucia and its noble citizens were inscribed as a beacon for generations to come. The legacy of compassion, the valor of the human spirit, and the enchantment of a well-forged alliance between love and justice shone ever brightly against the canvas of history. In a world that had known betrayal and strife, the spirits of Edward, Isabella, Alexander, and Catherine, along with the countless others who lent their voices to change, wove a narrative that would echo through the ages, a narrative of hope rising from the crucible of adversity and of hearts united in the common pursuit of a nobler future. The passage of time may erode monuments and fade the echoes of once celebrated triumphs, but the memories of those days, bathed in the luminous glow of hope and compassion, have etched themselves indelibly into the souls of those who believe in the transformative power of kindness. And so, as the sun set softly over the majestic yet enduring city of Santa Lucia, it left behind a legacy that promised every man, woman, and child that even in the darkest of times, the light of truth and love would forever prevail. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe to my channel and check out the description to find out how you can support my work.